Tourism and Energy to order at this time. We'll have Amy call the roll, please.
Representative Gooch, Senator Smith, Senator Wheeler, Senator Yates,
President.
Representative King, Representative Lehman,
Here.
Representative McPherson,
Here.
Representative Wesley, Representative Witten,
Here.
Senator Mays Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel,
Here.
Representative Bowling, Representative Bray, Representative Petrie, Representative Fugit,
Here.
Chair Nunn.
Here.
Mona Jewett, Chief of Staff for the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet.
I'm Mike Manjett. I'm Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Tourism.
And I guess I should turn my microphone on as well. I was going to remind y'all. My loud mouth is usually not a problem, but all right. So, as always, everyone, please hold your questions to the end. Please begin.
Good morning. The Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet's mission is to support the promotion and development of tourism to foster economic growth, education, and employment for communities throughout the Commonwealth. Kentucky's tourism industry is a $14.3 billion industry that welcomed over 80 million travelers to the Commonwealth last year. As one of the state's largest economic impactors, Kentucky tourism supports more than 97,000 jobs and serves as a driver for economic growth in all 120 counties. The Tourism Meeting and Convention Marketing Fund, as we call it the 1%, is administered by our cabinet and is crucial to building Kentucky's tourism industry. All tax receipts imposed under KRS 142-400 are deposited into this fund and used for the sole purpose of marketing and promoting tourism in the Commonwealth, including expenditures to market and promote events and venues related to meetings, conventions, trade shows, cultural activities, historic sites, recreation, areas of scenic beauty, and other economic activity that brings visitors to Kentucky. It's important to note these funds cannot be used for capital and construction projects. Each year by September 1st, our cabinet submits a report to the governor and to LRC detailing the fund's earnings and spending for the preceding fiscal year. Last year, in recognition of the growing amount of transient room tax receipts, the governor's budget recommended an increased appropriation, and the enacted budget agreed. This provided an additional $3 million for fiscal year 2025 and $7 million for fiscal year 2026. Additionally, the General Assembly set aside amounts from the fund to support the following: the Kentucky Mountain Regional Recreation Authority, the National Quilt Museum, and the Southern Kentucky Tourism Initiative. As you can see from this graph, there's been growth with the recent small decline, which mirrors the national trend. I'll now turn the presentation over to Commissioner Manjett.
Thank you, Mona, and thank you, Chairman Nunn, pardon me, for the opportunity to speak with the committee and explain the importance and impact that the 1% Tourism Meeting and Marketing Fund has on the tourism industry in the Commonwealth. You may have seen this slide before in previous presentations, but I think it perfectly encapsulates the importance of the 1% funds in marketing the state. The more funding we have to promote the state as a tourism destination and drive overnight visitation, the more visitors stay in our accommodations, generating more revenue for the 1% funds, and the circle repeats itself. This drives more visitors who spend more money in your communities, your shops, your restaurants, and your local attractions, creating jobs and driving economic development. This is what we call our circle of life. The 1% funds allow Kentucky to stay competitive in the market. The 1% funds are our funding source for everything we do, not just buying advertising, a portion of which you see on the slide here. From a marketing and advertising standpoint, calendar year 2024, we placed $10.8 million in paid media in 23 markets. Our advertising focuses on 7 pillars, which research has shown are most representative of Kentucky's tourism product: horses, bourbon, outdoors, music, arts, culinary, and history. From a public relations and communication standpoint, this is our 24/7, 365 days a year program that works to place articles and stories promoting Kentucky as a tourism destination. These stories are incredibly valuable to us as they serve as a third-party endorsement of our visitor experience. Excuse me. Also, one of the most cited areas of influence when making travel decisions is that they saw an article or story that inspired them to visit. You may have seen in your favorite magazine or online publication, top 10 small towns in America, top 10 best places in the South for culinary. Those don't just happen. To be very candid, and I hope none of my journalist friends are listening to this, journalists today, most are freelance, and they are looking for as much information as you can give them. And part of this program is we reach out to journalists, to those publications. Oftentimes they reach out to us and say, what small town festivals do you have coming up for Halloween, for Christmas, whatever it may be. If we have the content to provide them, meaning high-res photos, video, a unique story, there's a very good chance that we can get somebody in that. A good example of that, well, I'll get to that one in just a second. Sorry. From international marketing, international represents a key element of our growth strategy. On average, international visitors spent $775 while in Kentucky, compared to the average domestic traveler spend of $124. In other words, international visitors spend about 6 times the amount as domestic visitors. Our number one international market is Canada, while our top long-haul markets, which means visitors are usually flying over an ocean, are the UK, Germany, and France. Our Cultural Heritage Division, focusing primarily on developing programs in the categories of history, culinary, music, and the arts. This past June, we unveiled a new statewide African American Heritage Trail featuring over 57 sites in 28 communities that showcase how African Americans in their communities helped shape Kentucky and the nation. The trail also enhances the travel experience by offering authentic, meaningful, and immersive cultural experiences, which again, our research shows is attractive to potential visitors. We live in a visual society, and people want to be able to envision themselves participating in an activity or visiting a destination, which is where our website and content creation come in. They also want to see new and refreshed content, which is a constant challenge, as you can imagine. Our website and continued focus on creating new content are critical in keeping Kentucky fresh in the minds of potential travelers and, just as importantly, repeat visitors. A destination-focused website is never complete. I always laugh when somebody says, we just finished the website. It's never complete. And our staff works tirelessly on keeping the information as up-to-date and refreshed as possible. Our Regional Marketing and Matching Funds program, last year this program distributed $2 million from the 1% funds to 87 local tourism commissions to assist in marketing your communities. These partners were located in every part of the Commonwealth. And you've heard me mention a number of times already research. We are committed to research-based marketing, and we invest heavily in this area so that we can be as confident as possible that we are getting the highest possible return on the 1% funds. And when possible, we share that research with our tourism partners, a valuable benefit for our smaller tourism commissions who may not be able to afford purchasing this type of research on their own. Our annual research includes statewide and regional visitor profiles for day trippers, which just means they're not spending the night, and overnight visitors, our annual economic impact study, monthly hotel and short-term rental data, and an annual advertising ROI study, which I'll share with you shortly. And as I said earlier, this is just a portion of how we use the 1% funds. All the trade shows that we attend for sales, direct sales, all of our travel expenses, everything comes out of that 1%. Now I'd like to share some of the results with you from 2024. On PR and communications, we earned 180 placements, which included 6 nationally broadcast features, 2 of which were on the Today Show and Access Hollywood. Other placements included Time Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, Travel and Leisure, Garden and Guns, Southern Living, Forbes, Ebony Magazine, and Lonely Planet, to name just a few. These placements generated 3.2 billion total earned impressions and a media value equivalent to $2.1 million. Those aren't our numbers that we are just guessing. That comes from our PR agency with a formula that is industry standard. So again, that's $2 million in paid media value that we didn't have to spend and buy that media. International visitation increased 3% in 2024, according to a study from Tourism Economics. And spending by international visitors increased 12% year over year to $257 million. As I mentioned already, from Cultural Heritage, we launched our African American Heritage Trail. That launch has already gained significant traction from an earned media value. We've had a number of influencers in who have written on it exclusively. We also published an article resulting in more than 1,300 media placements with a reach of 154.6 million. From the website, we had 2.5 million users to KentuckyTourism.com. That is significant from the standpoint of AI. If you go on and do a Google search right now, what's going to happen is they're using artificial intelligence, and that first result that comes up is their AI. About 60% of folks who are doing Google searches now never go beyond that. That's their answer, so they're not going down. So for us to be able to maintain 2.5 million visitors to our website is pretty impressive. While I won't read this entire list to you, obviously, these are the communities where the Department of Tourism held video and photography shoots in 2024. As you can see, we covered all parts of the Commonwealth in this program. When we are able to, we also share some of this video and photography with our local tourism commissions, which, again, many of them don't have the budgets to be able to go out and afford that type of production. And as I also mentioned, $2 million to our 87 recipients in the Matching Funds program in 80 counties. So now I want to get into the biggest part of our budget, the media and paid advertising, and I want to show this slide. So we're pulling these next few slides directly from the Longwoods International Report, just so you can see that. Before we get to the results, these are some samples of some of the marketing materials and advertising that were created with the funds. All costs associated with photography, videography, ad creation, ad placement, account management, everything were paid for from the 1%. And then this slide illustrates the 23 geographic markets where we placed advertising in 2024. The growth and availability of the 1% funding has allowed us to increase the number of markets where we advertise, thereby increasing Kentucky's awareness as a travel destination. And I'd also like to say we research each of these markets. We look at their how they visit our website, how they engage with us on our social media and with our ads. And then obviously there's demographic and psychographic research that goes into that as well. We look obviously for drive markets. We look for markets that have direct flights as well. All of that goes into our consideration. Each year, as part of our research program, the Department of Tourism commissions a study on our advertising effectiveness and return on investment with Longwoods International, a premier market research company that is a respected leader within the travel and tourism industry. For visitor volumes and expenditures, Longwoods utilizes Travel USA, the largest American domestic travel study, which began in 1990. A benchmark study was conducted after the conclusion of the advertising period to measure awareness of specific ads, estimate the impact of advertising awareness on intentions to visit and destination image, and measure short-term conversion that occurred during and shortly after the campaign period. The survey was fielded in each of our 23 markets and received 2,000 qualified respondents who are, what is a qualified respondent? Adults 18 years of age or older who have taken at least one day or overnight leisure trip in the past 3 years and intend to take one in the next 2 years. In other words, our key target audience. And here are our results. The 2024 campaign produced an additional 3.2 million trips to Kentucky that otherwise would not have materialized in the absence of this advertising. Using Travel USA estimates of average visitor expenditures, Longwoods estimates that these incremental Kentucky visitors spent $529.7 million while in Kentucky. When related to total advertising cost of $10.8 million, this translates into a return on investment of $49 in visitor spending for each ad dollar spent. Additionally, those incremental expenditures yielded $40.9 million in state and local taxes for a return on investment of $4 in taxes for each ad dollar spent. Again, $10.8 million in ad spending led to 3.2 million additional trips, generating $529.7 million in incremental visitor spending and $40.9 million in incremental taxes. Every $1 invested in our ad campaign generated $49 in visitor spending, direct visitor spending, and $4 in taxes. Our job at the Department of Tourism is to generate widespread awareness and exposure for the state, ultimately helping to convince travelers to visit and generate economic impact. And it's working. As Mona said earlier, in 2024, for the third consecutive year, the tourism industry's economic impact in Kentucky set an all-time record at $14.3 billion, with 80 million visitors, $10.1 billion in direct spending, supporting nearly 97,000 jobs, and generating $1 billion in state and local taxes. And as you can see here, tourism impacts every part of the Commonwealth. I'm going to let you look at that one for a second. In closing, I'd like to again thank you for the invitation to be here today. Kentucky is seeing continued growth and incredible success in our tourism industry. The 1% funds are mission critical for us, and we need every dollar to continue our circle of life and help build a thriving community in each of our 120 counties. So thank you, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. I do see a question from Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the presentation. That thing about only 60% or 60% of the people stop at the AI result.
Yes, sir.
Is a fascinating trend. But when I started thinking about the way that I do things anymore too, I thought, well, that doesn't seem that unusual. So maybe you need to set up a bunch of spam pages with like pictures of beautiful beaches, and, and the ocean view and stuff.
That's interesting because we are trying to figure out how do you get ahead of that.
Yeah, that's a unique thing in the world here. On slide 8, actually, that same place where you had referenced that 60%, the regional marketing and matching funds going out to the 80 counties.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a rough listing somewhere of the particular campaigns that were run? I know that on slide, I think it was 18, you called out some investments there, but I don't think that necessarily that doesn't reflect necessarily where we had spent funds. That's where others came in and then spent to us, but not necessarily that we had any outlay there. So I guess is there some kind of an aggregated listing of those grants?
Yes,
or
sir.
Matching funds?
Yes.
Would you care to just shoot those?
Absolutely.
It's not urgent, just at some point. Secondly, obviously, probably the most impactful thing to a large tourism segment relating to bourbon. Mm-hmm. What's been going on with the Bourbon Trail and tourism there? I mean, what are we seeing?
We are certainly seeing headwinds in that, obviously, with the tariff situation that you heard me mention earlier. Canada is our number one market.
Sure.
Canadian travel to the U.S. is down significantly. We don't need to get into the reasons why, but it is. That impacts us. It's 2/3 of that $257 million that I said in spending. 2/3 of that is Canadian. I don't have specific numbers. Our estimate right now for Kentucky for Canadian visitors, and I'll get back to your bourbon question in just a second, is that we're down about 20% right now this year. From a bourbon standpoint, of course, it's not sold. It's off the shelves in Canada right now. That is impacting the industry itself. And I do think it's a big hit right now to the visitation. We're seeing some domestic headwinds right now as well.
It seems like all around, just bourbon as a whole has tremendous
bourbon as a whole
difficulties. Yeah. I didn't know related specifically to kind of the Bourbon Trail attraction that has been just so white hot for so many years.
I do not have specific numbers on that. Just anecdotally talking to a few of the visitor centers, they are down year over year. So we're working on that. We're looking at our messaging for our fall campaign, which is about to launch. You saw those 23 markets. We're actually expanding into about 26 markets. But we're going to do a lot more in-state and kind of shift our expenditures to some of the more closer drive markets to hit that. And we've got a lot happening this spring. We've got a very, very busy couple of this fall, very, very busy couple of months with not just bourbon and beyond, the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Louder Than Life. You've got Healing Appalachia that is in Kentucky and not in West Virginia now. And Keeneland, of course, opening up in October. We're very bullish on the fall. Hopefully we can make up some of that little bit of a downturn that we had this spring that you saw. But bourbon is a key for us. We lead with bourbon internationally as well. That is our one thing that truly separates Kentucky from anything else on an international stage. when you say you make 95% of an international product, they want to know why. And it's not about the consumption. It's about learning about the history and the cultural heritage behind it.
Consumption doesn't hurt.
Consumption doesn't hurt, but I will tell you that when probably 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, when we first felt comfortable marketing bourbon, right? After we kind of got over the whole state kind of got over it's a sin industry, right, for lack of a better way of saying it. And a lot of that was thanks to the legislative moves you made, making it easier for consumers to come into and taste and buy product. I told you everything we do is research. We did a focus group, and our ad was, I think it was a bottle of bourbon pouring into a shot glass to take a shot on Kentucky. We thought it was cute. Focus groups hated it because they said, that sounds like a bar hop, and we were doing these in Chicago and Atlanta, and they said, I can do that in 100 bars here. When we switched it and started talking about the stories behind the distilleries, when we talked about the heritage, why it comes from Kentucky, completely changed, a complete 180. So if you'll notice our ads, yes, now it's a little more evolved. You'll see some folks sitting around with a drink, but it really is come hear the stories and everything else. You have to think that when something is on such a trajectory as bourbon has been from a visitation, it is eventually going to plateau. But this is a little exacerbated with some of the economic things going on right now. And I want to also thank the distilleries because they continually invest in their visitor experience. And luckily we have the Tourism Development Act that helps them many times with that, and many of them have taken advantage of that. And I hope many more, if they're listening, I hope many more of them come back and do it again.
Very good. Thanks, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
See you, Representative Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the presentation. Just kind of a methodology question as you go through this. How do you determine where visitors come from, domestically and internationally? How do you get that data?
Again, it's all research-based. A lot of it, not a lot. Phones are wonderful things with your GPS in there. So there's research out there where we can actually, which we've subscribed to, we can track if you have been served an ad to us. We can track if you're a visitor and when you come into the state. Internationally, we use a lot of federal data. The National Travel and Tourism Office issues monthly updates on international visitation. I will tell you, and I've always felt like this for many years, I believe that Kentucky is underrepresented in those numbers, primarily because we have 2 direct international flights that come into the CVG airport. One on British Airways, 3 actually. We have one from Toronto, 4 now because you have Toronto and Montreal, and one from Paris. When they come in and it says Cincinnati, because that's the airport listing, we haven't been getting credit for those folks landing in Kentucky. Ohio's getting credit for those. And that's important because that goes into economic studies and everything else. So that's a long question, but we use a variety of research and studies.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Representative Whitten.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for this presentation. I just had a question. My background is in advertising, and so I was just curious how you all choose your ad agency partners. Is that a bidding process?
Yes.
And is that a continual, do you keep asking for bids, or just how does that work?
No, ma'am. We do an RFP process, and normally it's an initial 2-year contract, depending on when it's issued. And by that I mean if we had issued one last year, it would have been a 1 year because of the budget cycle, if that makes sense. So it's usually an initial 2-year contract, and then we have a series of renewal options that we have. I think the first one's 2 years, then 3 or 4 additional 1-year contracts.
And Representative Fugit, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions. On next to the last page, we've got the breakdown of monies that come into the regions.
Yes, sir.
$561.2 million coming to Southeast Kentucky. What do you attribute that to? I mean, why are they coming to East Kentucky?
Well, that's the total economic impact for the region. Primarily down there, I would say it's the outdoors. Obviously, is the leader, and when we talk about the eastern part of the state, that is what we're going after. Music as well, the musical heritage, but outdoors is a big part of it.
Right, and I understand that, and that's what I'm going to get to. the ATV trail system that we've established in East Kentucky, is that part of your all's marketing? That is part of it?
Yes, sir.
How is it part of it?
Well, it's included in our advertising, a lot of our social media. We like to rotate our social media, and that's probably not a great description of it. But we want to be representative of each of our 9 tourism regions so that we're not constantly putting something down for, say, Louisville, our biggest region. So we actually have a social media strategy where we go out and plan it out every month, where we're looking at make sure the regions are represented, make sure each of those pillars are represented as well. And then sometimes it comes down to what content do we have. Remember all the photos and everything that I'm talking about. So we work closely with that region and promoting it. So it's the simple answer is we utilize it in our advertising, our social media, and especially our earned media. When folks are looking for unique activities and opportunities, we pitch the ATV trails and opportunities in Eastern Kentucky often.
Okay, and if I could make a suggestion, if you would contact, and I can get you their contact information, the executive director of the Kentucky Regional Recreation Authority, that because we have 2 counties open now that we're selling permits, and we could use the help marketing the ATV trails. That's Martin County and Floyd County are connected together. We're selling permits, and the executive director could give you videos, pictures of Martin County and Floyd, but then Lawrence and Johnson County, hopefully in the next couple months, will also be open, and those 4 counties will be connected so people can come from other states. And then obviously there's 20 total counties that will eventually be connected together. Jackson County's real close to getting trails open. Letcher County's getting real close to getting trails open. And so I would encourage you or ask you to contact Scott Smith with the Trail Authority and get some ideas or get some pictures and videos so we can add that to the state video that goes out. I saw the video last year and was not, I was aggravated that East Kentucky didn't have a picture in there. There's horses, there's bourbon, there's all that other stuff, but there wasn't any side-by-sides or people riding side-by-sides through the mountains of East Kentucky. And I think that'll be a big draw for East Kentucky. West Virginia last year had a $38 million economic impact just in 8 small counties in West Virginia from ATV trails. And so it'll be big for East Kentucky when all those counties are connected. So I'd appreciate it if you'd check with them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Wesley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank you for your presentation, but I'd like to record my attendance and apologize to the committee. Being late today, there's a wreck on I-75, so just wanted to say that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I saw that accident. I pray no one was injured. It looked nasty. I do have a couple questions myself. Yesterday I had the benefit of attending a Commerce Lexington event, and they have adopted a talent attraction strategy. And seems like it's been successful regionally, and they've brought that to the state level, and there's a project underway to figure out how we're going to market ourselves for talent attraction. And in that meeting, the impact of tourism came up. They talked about how that's often a tool to bring talent to the state. People visit, hey, this is a great place to be. How do and they can then ping those people based upon GPS and that sort of thing to ask them to come back and relocate here. So the reason I ask that is, how can your office, your agency, partner with that project and other cabinets, other people across the Commonwealth, to make sure that we're strategic in how we're marketing? What the story is. And what areas we're marketing to, because they have certain stores that they think will be impactful with talent and certain markets that they're looking at for talent. So I'm just curious how you might think we could partner there.
Well, I believe we've got a call coming up with that group in just a week or so.
Yeah, early September, we'll be meeting with that group as well.
That's excellent news.
What I would say is a friend of mine from Visit Lex, their president, always says that tourism is the first handshake of economic development. A manufacturing facility or whatever it may be has never located a major place where they haven't visited first. And there's a saying in the tourism industry that a lady named Mara Gast from Texas coined a few years ago, and that was, if you build a place where people want to visit, you build a place where people want to live. If you build a place where people want to live, you build a place where people have to work. If you build a place where people have to work, you build a place where people have to visit. And again, kind of like that circle of life, it kind of keeps going and feeds on itself. And I think what we do in constantly promoting, which if you think about it, what are we promoting? We're promoting quality of life. We're promoting our restaurants and our attractions and our ATV trails and things that people can do. Companies are not going to, I was in the economic development realm for a while, ran the State Association for Economic Development, and that game has changed as well over the last number of years. They have a lot of their data that they can pull off the web and everything, and if you're a finalist, you're a finalist right now. And at that point, it comes down certainly incentives and everything else. I'm not discounting that, but at the end of the day, is it a place where, as a management company, I want to live? Do you have the arts? Do you have the ballet and the opera and the outdoor activities and things that not only do I want to do, that my employees can do, right? So I think we do play a part in it, maybe not directly. Part of this Longwood study that I did not get in today in the interest of time, but something that we also every year study, and it's what they call the halo effect of tourism marketing. And I'm happy to send this study to you so you all can review it. But as part of that ROI study and ad effectiveness, they also go in and ask, how does that impact your view on this destination as a place that you might want to retire or own a second home or go to college, right? And what it's shown, and has shown for a number of years consecutively, is that when you compare to people who have never seen one of our ads or visited Kentucky to those who have either seen an ad or visited Kentucky, we do much better. We over-index is the word I'm trying to find. But if you find one where they have seen our ad and visited, it goes off the charts almost, okay? It's almost double in some cases. They call that the halo effect. We're not out there specifically talking about we're a good place to work, but it's creating that mindset of it's a great place to live, right? So, and frankly, part of the New Kentucky Home Initiative was just that. In our visitor's guide last year, what we did, some years we have a fold-out map of the state, a 3-page fold-out map. So visual, again, I've said people are visual. They want to see how far something is, and they think they can go from Paducah to Pikeville in a day and do something in the morning, right? And this just helps them visualize that. On the back side of that this year, we put in more of those workforce development types of information. Did you know that Kentucky not just makes the most bourbon, but those, what products are made in Kentucky, so that people kind of understand the businesses that are here, the cost of living and things like that. And we'll probably continue that this year as well, because we do see tourism playing a vital role in that. I don't really see us ever running specific ads about workforce development, but one thing we did a couple of years ago was we targeted military veterans. We went to, or soon-to-be military veterans, and started geofencing. If you don't know what that is, it's a way for us to target digitally around basically any size area we want. We could geofence this building if we wanted to, and serve ads to any of the phones or any of the phones that are in here. But we did that with military bases around the country, because we wanted to get them thinking, hey, that might be a great place when I retire. And not just Fort Campbell. We were doing Andrews, and I think we did 13 military bases. We've backed off of that a little bit just because the engagement wasn't there. But we feel like every time we run an ad in the market, it is promoting workforce. And so we're open to those conversations is the shorter answer.
Excellent, thank you. Senator Yates.
Thank you. Just building off that, I'm actually going to leave this meeting here and head back to Louisville. There's doing a GLI, the chamber, on town attraction and strategy, and that's based on last session. We appropriated that money for development consultants, international. It's a DCI, so hopefully to figure out how to bring that in.
I think that's who we're speaking with, isn't it? DCI.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully I'll see you guys in a minute. Are you back in the
No, we've got a call in about a week or so.
Okay, awesome. So we're working to build kind of how you play. If Louisville is, I guess, I think I can barely see that, but it's $5.4 billion return onto it. And so I know that talks about how important it is on having a return on your investment, where just like any business, you look at it. But a lot of times there's some things that may have not been interest to people in Louisville, or they've been 3 or 4 times. How do we get the people in Louisville to other parts of Kentucky
Yes.
to visit and stuff, and kind of like this kind of a staycation onto it. When we talk about town attraction, that's something I've been working on forever. When I was president of the Metro Council, I'd always look and see at our schools how we lose some of the best and brightest, and how do we get them back. It used to be that you were always wanting to come back to Kentucky. We've, I guess, over the past 7 years, we've looked and seen it's going the other way. We're losing our best. So are you doing any focus groups actually looking, saying like, this kid graduated from, a high school in Kentucky, they've gone away to school, how do we get this talent back?
We haven't done any focus groups on that or any research on that specifically, no.
Okay, we did a little bit back with Louisville, and so that's what maybe we can keep sharing that information. Okay, no, I think obviously when you're looking at how do we get people want to live in Kentucky, come to Kentucky, visit Kentucky, it's looking about our quality of life too, and I think sometimes trying to sell that, our education, our some of the statistics that we have been embarrassed about over the years, then we work to try to improve that, maybe sell what we're doing to improve those statistics.
And I keep in mind, obviously, we're not the only ones marketing tourism out there. If you sit at home and watch anything anymore, I think when I was here in February testifying, I listed, I think, 18 destinations that I had seen on my TV over the weekend, and everything from Disney cruises to, and folks like, oh, that's not competition. Yes, it is. Sure. Our competition is really anything with a discretionary dollar. If somebody decides, I'm going to, take the family out to dinner and spend $500 as opposed to do an overnight at one of our state parks, absolutely, that's a discretionary expense. So it's ongoing. It's challenging, but we are seeing a lot of success. And our biggest challenge in Kentucky, and research shows this over and over again, is we're an unknown. Once we get people here, our biggest challenge is getting them here the first time. And once they come, they say, I can't believe how pretty it is. I can't believe I could have that experience. And those numbers of experiences vary widely, obviously, which is great for us. But most importantly, I didn't know how friendly the people were and how hospitable the people were. And you can literally go back decades in our visitor profile, and that is in the top 5 every time. That's not always the case. We know that in other parts of the country. So our job, as I said, we're the bullhorn to get people here and say, hey, take a look at us. And once we get them here, Kentucky tends to sell itself.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
absolutely.
One thing I've learned too is that's why it's so important our sports do so well. And I always thought I was on the Arena Authority Board with the Yum Center whenever we made a guarantee, and I was like, oh no, that's going to be backed up with tax dollars. And so all of a sudden I had a whole lot of UK fans in Louisville cheering for Louisville to make sure we fill that arena because of the money. But if we sit on this committee, we realize if any of our teams are getting exposure on TV, when the national championships and stuff like that, that's exposure for the Commonwealth.
Well, I think there's research that shows when a school wins a national title, their enrollment goes up significantly. Because I used to be associate AD at Louisville many years ago. So, yeah.
Thank you. Along that line of conversation there, you mentioned that we are an unknown. We talked a little bit about how tourism can be a benefit to talent attraction, and you showed a very strong ROI earlier. So how does our spend compare to neighboring states on tourism?
I just came from a meeting literally yesterday with U.S. Travel Association. They are finalizing their budget survey of states, so I can't tell you right now where we are. And it's been skewed frankly been skewed ever since COVID because many states, as we did, got federal money through ARPA or CARES. So it hasn't really been an apples to apples comparison. I would say we're probably middle of the pack, and that is a somewhat educated guess. Tennessee I think just got $40 million for tourism spending. We're higher than Ohio. We're higher than Indiana. Much smaller than Illinois. Virginia has a very large budget. And I'm just going around contiguous states. When you look at our comp states, we're probably a higher budget than Georgia. Either about or lower than Mississippi. Mississippi is starting to get some gaming money in. So it varies widely. And then you've got Florida, which is about a $100 million budget. You've got California, about a $100 million budget plus. And of course, you see those ads here, right? Because they can afford to do that. So I don't have that study yet, and it should be in the next 3 to 4 weeks. I think they told us that we would get that. But once that comes out, I'm happy to share that.
Excellent, thank you. No other questions from members? Before we close, thank you for your presentation. We'll get you off the hot seat in just 1 second here. I do want to echo Representative Fugett's comments. My sister-in-law has a little country store in Dunlow, West Virginia. They call it Way Out Wayne. And they'd have closed years ago if it hadn't been for the boost in economic development from trail rides. It is a big deal. It can really make a difference in some of the small communities we have in East Kentucky. So I do encourage y'all to follow up on that advice and that ask that he had. So with that, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Any other business for the committee? All that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?